Introducing YouTube memberships, a fun way to support the channel while getting some exclusive perks. Click the join button to become a member now and get benefits like badges next to your name on videos, behind-the-scenes photos, advantages during the live trivia game, discounts on merchandise, private one-on-one video chats, the ability to request future video topics, and exclusive 8 to 10 minute videos on the history of the NFL. And now, on with our feature presentation. The Dude Perfect broadcast. Oh, how I miss this. To be honest, I'm surprised this even came back for a second season, seeing as there were no announcements about this until just a few weeks ago. The Dude Perfect broadcast started for the very first Amazon game and was done about once a month. But this year, it's just a two-shot deal, with one broadcast on Black Friday and a second broadcast this Thursday, and that's it, which might be the NFL equivalent of moving a TV show to Friday nights. Of all the alternate broadcasts, this one was by far the worst of the bunch from last year. I've done many videos and reviews critiquing the Dude Perfect broadcast, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And it comes from a place of love, because number one, I think Dude Perfect are phenomenal influences and are good, wholesome entertainment. And I love how they've been able to grow from just the guys that made trick shot videos in their backyard to an empire. And number two, I love a good alternate broadcast. Heck, I look forward to the Nickelodeon broadcast every single year because of how impressive it is. But if you missed the Dude Perfect broadcast from last year, my criticisms and critiques could be summed up by this. Too many games that have nothing to do with the action on the field, where no one is paying attention, the games are impossible to keep track of, and the commentary is downright awful. Dude Perfect works as a heavily edited, high-paced, 8-minute YouTube video, and not as a 3-hour stream in real time where the pacing is all off. There were definitely ways to improve it, and there were some things that I really liked, but for the most part, Dude Perfect felt more like Dud Perfect, because these broadcasts were absolute duds. And again, I fully recognize that I'm not the target audience for this. It's just the fact that I don't know who would be the target audience, because I have no clue who this is even for. But hey, new year, new chance to overhaul the broadcast and make it better. So what did I think of the Dude Perfect broadcast in 2023? Did they improve on their flaws and their shortcomings from last year? I'm here to say that no. No, they did not. If anything, it was somehow even worse. And it's not even worse in the obnoxious sense. It's worse in the worst way that you can be worse. By being boring. It's as though they toned down a lot and we're just going through the motions, but not in a way that worked. Like I said last year, my ideal version of the Dude Perfect broadcast is the guys sitting around and watching the game, like buddies on a couch. And then, during the commercial breaks, they play their games. That way, you have the best of both worlds. If you can't do that because you need to get the commercial breaks in and synced up, then have the games have something to do with the actual game itself, like the Dunk Tank Challenge, which was brilliant, where two of the guys were in the dunk tank, and if they correctly guessed the play right, they got to throw the ball and try to dunk their opponent. They did not bring that back for this one, because why should we have nice things? The broadcast isn't a lost cause. I genuinely believe that there is something here that they can work with. But under the format that they had this year, not at all. This broadcast can really be divided up into two parts. The guys talking about the game, and the mini-games and Dude Perfect stuff that they do. And herein lies one of the major problems with the Dude Perfect broadcast. None of the Dude Perfect guys know football. Either that, or they pay such little attention to the game that it's as though it's on in the background and that's it. And I'm not expecting them to break down plays like the Manicast, or like an actual announcer does during a game. That would be ridiculous, because at that point, why would you even have the alternate broadcast? I'm not asking the Dude Perfect guys to be Greg Olsen or Tony Romo talking to 8-year-olds. My thing is that they just have people talking over each other constantly and saying things that are objectively wrong that make me wonder if they ever watched the sport before. Here are just some examples of this.
About ours.
So easy.
DudePerfect.com/vote.
Oh.
Jet sweep.
Oh, okay. You need 3.
That's not a jet sweep. That's just a regular running play. That's a regular toss. This is what a jet sweep looks like. Not even remotely close to what you said.
You know, I'm watching the play there with the penalty. I don't think he really lunged that hard. I don't know if he threw the flag.
Wait, you don't think that was a penalty? The dude headbutted the other guy. That's a penalty 10 times out of 10.
Wait, did the Dolphins get a field goal?
The score is 3-0. What do you mean did the Dolphins get a field goal? How do you think they scored? You think they got 3 points on one-pointer, CFL style?
Okay. What is it? Did they pick up the first there?
It's 3rd and 5. The last play was 2nd and 6 and went for a yard. Unless my eyes are deceiving me, that's not a first down, and it's actually not even remotely close to a first down.
Tua just kind of sitting in a clean pocket.
Got it.
Yep, that's a clean pocket, all right. Love a clean pocket where you immediately get sacked. Maybe don't call it a clean pocket as soon as he gets the ball, and you actually let the play develop before you call it a clean pocket.
The question is, at this point, do you bring Zach Wilson back into the game?
Not allowed to do that. He's the 3rd stringer. He's inactive. By rule, he is not allowed to come into the game. Might as well ask if they should bring Aaron Rodgers in.
Oh, are they kicking this?
Yeah. How far is this?
54 in the cold Northeast.
It's a 54-yard field goal. That's a very normal kick to attempt. No one's punting in that spot. You being stunned that they're trying a 54-yard field goal is like me being stunned that the Eagles are going for it on 4th and goal at the half-yard line.
Oh, guys. Oh, this is a pick six.
That's a replay. That's a freaking replay. Why would you think that just happened?
Who's on offense, Spark?
Who's on offense? Just look at the freaking screen. What do you mean who's on offense? Newsflash, it's the team with the quarterback. I mean, my God, have these guys ever watched a football game before? I watched 20 minutes of Swan Lake in a music theory class in high school back in 2014, and I somehow feel more qualified to critique ballet than these guys do at talking football. Also, I have to point out this comment made during the broadcast, that I don't know if it's an overreaction on my part, but considering the network that this is on, and in light of the recent news, feels like it is in incredibly poor taste.
I talked to Mozart before the game. He
Yeah?
said he really wanted to win this one.
He did?
Yeah.
And what else did he tell you?
He said, Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, when your employer is Amazon, and Carissa Thompson, in light of the recent scandal where she admitted to faking her sideline reports, is employed by Amazon and is the head of their pregame show, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, that might not be the best joke in the world to make. Then again, seeing as these guys know nothing about football, I can't even fault them too much for that one, because they probably had no idea that this even happened. Heck, they acted stunned when they found out that Tim Boyle played for the Packers last year, so their football knowledge is literally at 0.
This is interesting right here. Did
I'm
you
a
guys know
dressing
this?
guy.
Yeah,
No, I
All
didn't.
those guys from Green Bay.
They were all
Wow.
together. I didn't know Boyle was there.
I didn't know Boyle was at Green Bay. That's interesting stat.
I didn't.
Alright, so the football talk fell flat when they actually did focus on the game. But what about the mini-games that they played? Unsurprisingly, they also fell flat. And I truly mean every single one of those games fell flat. Not just from a gameplay standpoint, but from a production standpoint too. The most disappointing part about the broadcast, honestly, might be the fact that the production was incredibly lackluster. You cannot pull this format off without a high production quality, and that was not there. There were multiple times where the scoreboard was just blatantly incorrect. After the very first play of the game, it said 2nd and 14, even though the Jets gained yards. There was another moment where the Dolphins were up 10-0, but it said 3-0. Like, these are not hard things to do. This is not hard to keep track of. I make fewer mistakes with my scoreboard when I live stream the games. And that's with me announcing the game with stats as a one-man show and reading the chat and updating a bunch of other things as well. For this, there's a designated person where this is their only job, and they're screwing up at an absurdly high level. And the poor production quality played a huge part in why the games failed so spectacularly. The crew played a grand total of 7 games throughout the stream, and all 7 of them failed. The first one was Card Attack, which was clearly not tested by anyone beforehand. The premise of this game was simple. Each of the guys is driving around in a cart, and they have to pop each other's balloons. They hyped this game up for a while, and it lasted all of 30 seconds. The second game was Leftovers, where the goal was to flip food into a bowl across from you, and if your bowl was filled the highest, you won. However, not only did they cut to a commercial in the middle of the competition, but it was impossible to see who was winning, because the camera angles were so bad. They should have had 5 different cameras set up on each of the 5 bowls, so you could see in real time who was winning, because throughout the entire competition, we genuinely had no idea who was in front. The same thing applied for the third competition called Ball Bowl, where you had to bounce ping pong balls into a bowl on your head. Instead of having 5 cameras set up on each of the guys, we just had 1 camera, making it hard to follow in real time, and there should have been someone behind each person like they do with the hot dog eating contest, updating the scores in real time, depending on how many balls are in the bowl. The only reason we were even able to tell who won this one was because it was a bigger bloodbath than the Cowboys on Thanksgiving against the Commanders, because one person had a bowl that was overflowing. Other than that, I couldn't tell you who came from 2nd through 5th with the naked eye. Then, there was the 4th game, which was called Field Goal Frenzy. The idea behind this one is that you sling balls into a net through the uprights, while the other guys try and fling dodgeballs at you and knock you off your balance beam. And I genuinely have no idea if they tested this game at all, because when you're creating a game, especially with something like Dude Perfect, where you constantly see the guys succeed and have fun competitions in their videos, you want an engaging game that all the guys can be good at potentially. And here, of the 5 minutes that this game was played, a grand total of 2 points were scored. 3 of the guys scored 0, and the highest score was 1. Who wants to watch that? Seriously, who wants to watch that? I would also complain that they didn't show the scores on the screen and didn't have a split screen with one shot on the man on the beam and the other shot of the field goal post so you could see which ones were good or not. But considering that the median score was 0, there was no need. Wrong football was just your typical game where the most balls into the soccer net wins. However, the machines were pointless. They didn't work. They died on the guys or they didn't know how to start them at the very beginning. And it was completely luck-based. In fact, the first 2 eliminations were decided by luck of the draw, which is what I'm sure everyone wants to watch. I'm sure all the kids love seeing these competitions getting decided in a tiebreaker by picking a rubber duck panda and seeing which number is higher. Game number 6 was pastime, where you just had to avoid being the person with the worst time, and had to knock down all 5 of the receivers while a defensive line was in front of you. However, if this is a time-based competition, what should there be so we can follow along? That's right, a clock! Having said that, there was no clock. The clock was not on screen, so we had no idea until after the fact how all of these guys did. Just basic stuff like that. Not having a clock for a time-based game is inexcusable. And then, game number 7 was X Squeegee Me, where you had to get water in a bucket. Once again, because there was no split screen on the contestants, you could not track in real time who won this battle. It also highlighted the main flaw of this broadcast, where there was a Tim Boyle interception, and no one seemed to care. All 7 games suffer from poor production, a surprisingly low budget, and game design flaws that were clearly only tested for the first time during the game. To grow up on Nickelodeon game shows and then see this is just embarrassing, especially when you have the backing of freaking Amazon, and especially when some of the games last year actually worked. But let's just call it for what it is. Is there even a market for this? Who's the audience? Do we honestly think the Dude Perfect broadcast even comes back for 2024? They're doing one more game this year, as they've got the game next Thursday night between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. So they're doing 2 games in the span of less than a week after doing 4 games last year throughout the season. So they're cutting the number of games in half. I don't know what the exact viewership numbers for this game are going to be. Amazon didn't reveal them last year, and I don't expect them to. But here's what we know. Dude Perfect has 60 million subscribers. They have a massive audience, and one of the biggest channels on the platform. Throughout the broadcast, they had a hashtag saying BFF Dude Perfect, where you could tweet at them your thoughts, or where they would ask questions, or where you could send them your photos and videos of you watching the broadcast, or where you could participate in the challenges. Want to know how many people used the hashtag throughout the broadcast, excluding the Dude Perfect and Amazon accounts? 44. That's it. Dude Perfect, with 60 million subscribers, had 44 people saying, hey, we're watching the game, even though they actively encouraged people throughout the entire 3-hour broadcast to do it. That is laughably bad engagement, especially when, in reality, it was 43, because one person was using that hashtag to voice his displeasure, because he put the thing on by mistake and had no idea how to change it. Which I don't even know how that happens, but yeah, 43 or 44 uses of the hashtag. It's not really too surprising, considering the fact that Ty, at one point in the broadcast, actually encouraged people to switch off the broadcast and watch the main one with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit.
In case this gets too much, which it can be a lot of times. Don't be afraid to switch over to the main broadcast. Al and Kirk,
We love those guys. Kaylee's over there as well.
And if that wasn't enough, just look at the viewership numbers on the NFL account showing the best of Dude Perfect. The first one, out of curiosity, drew 87,000 views. Over the rest of the season, it averaged 28,000 views, with pretty consistent numbers across the 3 games. But here, through the first day, at the time of this upload, which is where they get the bulk of their views, it got 5,100. It would not shock me if my review of the Dude Perfect broadcast actually got more views than the highlights from the official NFL account with over 12 million subscribers, or at the very least, comparable views. All the goodwill that they had is gone, and people don't want to watch this thing. Unlike the Nickelodeon broadcast, or the Manningcast, or the Next Gen Stats broadcast, some alternate broadcasts that continue to get high viewership numbers and continue to have interest, it seems like people checked out at Dude Perfect after the first broadcast, or at the very least, after the first season. And I can't exactly blame them, because I think they made the right call. Before I go any further, the tree is going to get decorated by a Sunday stream, so I think you're going to like it a lot. Having said that, though, regarding the Dude Perfect broadcast between these two teams behind me right here, is there a way to make it work? I know it's been a failure for just about its entire existence, but is there a way to make it work? Honestly, I think so. It's not a lost cause. You can do stuff to make the broadcasts work. Have mini games that actually involve the game itself. Have the guys do one iota of research to make it seem like they've watched a football game before in their lives. Have better production quality. Have more cameras set up. You can do a lot here to fix this broadcast. But time is running out. This broadcast is drawing low engagement and low viewership numbers, and I'm not sure how it survives 2023 at this rate. I don't know if it's making it to a third season, and honestly, I can't blame Amazon if they want to pull the plug, because this has been a disaster. Year 2 for the Dude Perfect broadcast is shaping up to be a failure like year 1. It's a boring show that appeals to no one whatsoever, because it lacks the pacing and the charm of a regular Dude Perfect video, and it plays to a format that just does not work at all. Everything about this broadcast is off, even though it has potential, and it's just so painful to watch. So, in the spirit of Dude Perfect, let's play a game to close out. What do Dude Perfect and Matt Eberflus have in common? When it comes to the NFL, they're both people that I don't think survive a third season and make it to 2024. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.